Welcome to another edition of the After Hours, a conversation that we have been doing after the Royal City Summit presented by Ammo Music here at Royal City Studios in Guelph. And I have a Guelph guy with me. This is Bilay. Bilay, how are you doing today?
Always fantastic. Thanks for having me.
It must feel like a marathon at this point. We just did the panel and now you're here on the one-on-one. This is the hot seat. This is where it gets intense.
Yeah. Luckily, I have a lot of experience with it, so I'm pretty chill.
Awesome. So, Bilay, if folks don't know, you're one of the co-owners of Onyx, one of the clubs, bars here in Guelph. I want to ask you before we get into Onyx, what was the nightlife scene like when you first got to Guelph and compared to what it is now?
Well, back in the day, it was like Rich was doing a lot of stuff. There's always a ton of events. The funny thing I always say about Guelph is like you have like the size of the street, right? You have like the trappers, we call Party Town Street. And then on the other side, like as soon as you hit like back then, it was like Van Goghs and stuff. Like those are all the independents. And so the thing I remember most is like I loved seeing all the bars get out at the same time. And then you see like the independent bars like, Jimmy Jazz, 58, Frank's, Van Goghs, and they're all going out to get like to the side to get a pita pit or something. But then you have all the trappers and palace people and all that. So like, yeah.
What are they getting?
Who even knows? But Guelph back in the day, I think like, honestly, I think it's a lot tamer now. Truthfully, that's how I feel. Like Guelph
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing. It's like it's in terms of like people aren't as rowdy anymore, but they're still rowdy, but just in a different way. So yeah, I think it's tamer now, but it's still equally as busy and stuff. Back in the day it was what Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You're going out. Like everybody's going out all the time now. Kids are more like they're gonna go out on like a Thursday and then they're gonna take a night off and then they're gonna come out on a Saturday and stuff like that. So maybe we're doing something right with this whole education thing because like we were partying all the time and going to school and now kids are like, we have to focus on school.
We didn't turn out so bad though.
Yeah, I know. Look at me.
At what point during that stretch, I mean, you're going out often, right? But you're not really involved with behind the scenes. At what point did you want to inject yourself into that culture?
Well, like I was always doing like weird events here and there. It was right when I was in college. Like we were doing, I had an underground venue in an art gallery in London, Ontario. And I was working with like, London Music Hall and like Brendan Eady and stuff like that, kind of under the scenes because I had my arts collective, but they battled, like my collective people battled with like the mainstream people. So Eady and I had a meeting and I was like, yo, let's let them keep battling online. Like it's good publicity. Like we'll just work together and let them fight it out. So for me, it was more about like, how can I get artists and shows that I like, like these, instead of all this mainstream stuff, how can we do shows and events that like, people will come to and think's cool and like there's another alternative. So that's kind of, I kind of had a knack for it. So it's kind of just fell in my lap and I kind of just ran with it. So yeah.
So I mean, in that time, like what are you proud of what you've been able to do with your contributions to the nightlife scene?
That's a big question. That's a huge question.
I told you the hot seat.
Yeah. Well, like, especially in London, the thing I'm proud of, honestly, is giving artists like that aren't the mainstream artists, like a place to go, a way to make money, an avenue to get their art and their ideas and their vision across. Because to me, it's like, yeah, a lot of artists, like they're artists. I'm an artist. Our minds are everywhere, we're highly emotional, like, all this stuff. And it's like, for an artist to really shine, it's like, you have to take away a lot of those pressures of everything else. So at least that's what I saw, how can we, it's just about like, yeah, providing a way for everybody to be on the same playing field, even if we are a little weird and different. Like, yeah.
So for me, when I was going out, the peak of my going out days, 58 was kind of a staple for me. It was kind of just a go-to. We always liked going. We really liked the idea of like having to dress up too, right? Because a lot of these places, like we were talking about earlier, you could roll in sweatpants, whereas 58, it was a strict dress code, and you didn't see that in Guelph. Like you saw that in Toronto and like bigger cities. So I mean, it was really popular at the time, but obviously, trends die. Sometimes people want to dwell in other things. There's more bars opening up. Yeah. What was the decision behind flipping 58 into Onyx?
Truthfully, well, I had District before, right? So I ran District, which was above District and District Lounge, which was above Van Goghs here. for 6 years. And so I had that for 6 years. And Dario and Chuck were actually, they talked to me, I think it was on my second or third year of district. They were like, oh, you should, they're like, we like your hustle, we like your style. Because I did that speaker thing where I'm just causing chaos. Like, literally, that's all I do. It's like, I'm the little, like, dickhead of downtown Guelph. But I still like to work with everybody, you know? So for me, they were trying to sell that to me for a while, but I couldn't afford it. And so when they were really putting it up for sale and I knew that it was going to go, I was actually on third floor of district with my manager, Sam Gilbert, who was an amazing manager. And I was just looking at it and I was stressed. She's like, well, why are you stressed? I'm like, well, I know I can get it if I, like, you know, maybe get partners in this one instead of just, like, you know, getting it on my own and stuff like that. But I was like, you know, it to me, it was a necessary evil that needs to happen downtown Guelph. Either, you know, a lot of corporations were looking at it and, like, you know, big things like Party Town wasn't looking at it, but, like, places like kind of like Party Town. And I thought it would really do damage to our community more so than a good thing. So it was almost something that it's like, if I'm not going to take it, it's going to change the whole landscape of downtown. Like, we could have like a Boston Pizza or some shit up there, you know, that's doing some just like every run-of-the-mill thing. So to me, it was really important to preserve that whole independent side and the corporation side.
And make sure that it belongs to Guelph,
exactly.
Right?
So it's like, do I go to a lot of nightclubs? Like, no. I'm not really a nightclub person. I'm not really a dress-up person. But the thing I do love about clubs is, like, I love, like, you know, the show of bottle service. I love, like, those little things. So I'm like, I can make a poppin' club, like a nightclub, an actual nightclub in a place like Guelph where you have the feel of Toronto and you have the feel of, like, Montreal and, like, Vegas. Like, yo, I love Vegas.
You're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, right? It's a fucking problem, though. But it's like that whole feel, just bring it to Guelph. So, yeah, it was just something that kind of needed to happen, and it aligns with, like, my future plans as well. So, yeah.
That's great. Okay. So obviously COVID has really changed how we're running events, and obviously your space, your field has really been affected by this. But you've really been able to pivot and you know, transform and make a different experience for people. Explain to the folks listening to this what you're doing with Onyx and how it's worked out for you so far.
Well, we pretty much, like, converted it into, like, an online TV studio, like, you know what I'm saying. So. We have wicked partners at Sound Events who, like, you know, I've worked with them for 12, 15 years now. And it was about, like, they have warehouses full of gear. And as I said before, it's like our industry was really hit hard. As in, like, now you have all these places that have warehouses full of festival gear that they don't use. So I was like, all right, if people have to stay seated and you can't talk to people, it's like, how about if I put a festival inside a place really small, like Onyx, like, it's a great size room. So I can bring in all these large production lights and do all this crazy programming and all this stuff and stream it, because it's like, I don't have the capacity to have those numbers anymore. But the internet's so it's free. So it's like, I can make money off the internet. So I'm going to now shift to trying to get internet money, which will fund artists, which will fund the spaces that help artists and keep people employed and stuff like that, and we can just pivot to something like that. Like, honestly, it was just a crazy idea I had on a bottle of wine, and somehow
must have been some really good wine.
Yeah, somehow worked out. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's like I remember after finishing the bottle of wine. Shit. This is unhinged, right?
The truth serum is coming out.
Yeah,
now.
Exactly. It's like I had my notepad there, and then honestly, I started making calls and sending messages. It was like midnight one. I was like, I got this idea, guys. We're gonna do it. And I just didn't know that everybody would be like, yeah, let's do it. Which is like, you know, something that I never really expect. Like, who would have thought? Like 28, buying my first bar. Like, nope. I came back to buy a house because, like, I was with my now ex-fiance. And I came back from my place in Ghana, and I was like, she's like, yeah, we're going to buy a house or whatever. And I was out having a drink, and it was actually Nick who was like, he's like, yo, you know, you had that idea for a bar. He's like, there's a bar for sale. So I was like, yo, cool. So I bought the bar instead of the house, and that was that relationship.
It was like a blessing in disguise,
exactly.
Right?
So it's like, I don't know. For me, it's like, I really do vibe off, like, you know, life vibes and stuff like that. And like, yeah, it's there. Just kind of go for it.
Yeah, like I haven't had the luxury of seeing the space yet, but I've seen a lot of photos, and it's not the 58 of old anymore. And you've done an incredible job transforming that place.
Hey, yeah, that place was trashed when we got it. Like, we had a lot of stuff to throw out and tear up, and like, you know, my business partners, like Mike, sat there for days sanding the floor and staining it. Like I was still dealing with district, so I'm running back and forth and stuff. But the team really stepped up and like, you know, we implemented the stuff and we tore apart the bar and redid it. And,
Has the idea been a success so far?
Until COVID, yeah, it was sick.
That's sweet.
Yeah, and even now with our idea now, it's like, yeah, we took our viewership from, you know, our first month we had 2,500 viewers.
Wow.
Our second month we had 12,200 viewers. So it's like we're growing it at the rate where, you know, it's almost a little faster than I thought, but. Again, that's why I love our city, Guelph, for community. It's like I'm not drowned out by all the other shit that big cities have. Like, you know, it's like all I'm really trying to do is target Guelph, Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo, London. But that little target will like, it'll grow out. So Toronto people are taking notice. Montreal people, like BC, like, you know, they're trying to book tours down here like right off the bat because they're like, yo, we can book tours and like be able to showcase their stream in a way that like nobody's really doing, you know what I'm saying? It's like people have one camera up or something like that. I have 5 cameras. You know, I want to stream HD all the time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Show them.
Yeah, it's like my lights are all custom. I have custom video. I have custom graphics. I have all this crap where it's like I'm just looking at the whole market. It's like to get one camera up, and it's no diss to anybody. You know, I love everybody. It's no diss to anybody, but it's like it's the same thing we were talking about before. It's like, yo, your speakers got to work. And for me, it's like, if a massive club can just have one camera, it's like, yeah, I'm going to flex hard and show you what I can do in a place like Guelph with my little crew. And yeah, you have one camera, I'm going to put up 5 cameras. You know, catch up. Don't get mad, get better.
No, we were talking about the power of word of mouth, and that's exactly what's going to happen, right? It's going to be a domino effect. So it's great to hear that, you know, you had this vision and you were able to follow through on it, and it's obviously turned out to be what you wanted it to be.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it definitely comes from like, you know, staying loyal to friends. Like, you know, Marcel, for instance, like I think you know Marcel Jordan. Like he does awesome work. And like when I first met Marcel, he was still working in like I think he was working at a factory or something. And he's just like, yeah, I have this like mill thing I want to start doing. I was like, just do it. I was like, why? And so he actually did like one of his first signs he ever did was my district sign out front. And so even for Onyx, it's like I used him too. I still use the same artists. I still use the same people that I still have my same DJ for 7 years. It's like we always laugh about it. I was like, I've known you for 7 years, and I barely even know how I met you. He's like, he always talks about this meeting I had, which I don't remember, but I had 10 DJs sitting around because I was like, I don't know what's cool. Like, so
you sound like you have your own version of the Rat Pack.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You just ride or die.
Yeah, he's stuck with it. It was dope.
Well, Bilay, I feel like we could talk for another 15 minutes, but unfortunately, I got time here, right? I got things to do. But Bilay, it was such a joy to meet you. You know, like we were saying right before we recorded, we've heard of each other so much in our own social circles, but never had the opportunity to meet. But you've met all the expectations that I would have had of you. So
thanks, man.
It's an absolute pleasure meeting you, and thanks. And plug where people can find you.
Onyx Nightclub Guelph.com. You can go to Facebook, Onyx Nightclub. Instagram, you name it. We're
awesome.
There. Yeah.
Great. Well, all the best to you, especially during these troubling times, but it sounds like you're on the right trajectory. So I really appreciate your time. Thanks for being
crossed. Here. Thanks, man. Thanks a lot.
Once again, another episode of the After Hours here at Royal City Studios in Guelph as a part of the Royal City Summit, and brought to you by, of course, at our friends at Ammo Music. So this is D, that's Bilay, and enjoy the rest of your day.